C. Moore, the fireman, our closer. Will C. Moore was a rookie in 1927 who had an incredible year, 19-7, league-leading 2.28 ERA, primarily as a reliever. He actually led the league in saves with 13 retroactively calculated. Essentially, Moore was the 1927 version of a relief ace, a bit like Andrew Miller in the 2016 playoffs or Josh Hader in recent years. He'd throw multiple innings to secure wins. In this World Series, Moore appeared twice and played a pivotal role each time. In Game 1, he relieved Hoyt and got the save. In Game 4, he came on in relief and ended up getting the win. Moore's overall line in the series, 2 appearances, 1 win, 1 save. And I believe he only allowed 1 run in roughly 3 innings of work. That's a 0 ERA officially, since the only 1 run he allowed in Game 4 was unearned. Modern Analytics would heap praise on Moore's leverage index usage. Huggins deployed him in high leverage spots. In fact, Moore was on the mound for the final outs of the World Series, showing that the concept of a trusted closer is not as new as we think. His presence also underlines a big difference in bullpens. The Pirates didn't have an answer to Moore's dominance in relief. The Pirates' pitching woes. The Pirates' starters were actually quite good in the regular season. Ray Kramer was 19-8 with a 2.47 ERA, the NL ERA leader. And veteran Carmen Hill had 22 wins, but in this series they got knocked around. Kramer lost Game 1, giving up 5 runs, though they were not all earned in 7 innings. Vic Aldridge got shelled in Game 2. He took the loss as the Yankees scored 6. In Game 3 starter, Lee Meadows was hit hard in the 8-1 rout. One pattern: the Pirates pitchers walked too many Yankees. Over the series, Pirates hurlers issued 13 walks. That's essentially giving free base runners to a deadly lineup. Kramer himself walked in a run with the bases loaded in Game 1. A modern pitching coach would pull his hair out at that. Those walks contributed to an inflated FIP for Pittsburgh. By my calculation, the Pirates staff series FIP was around 3.6 to 3.7, which isn't terrible, but their actual ERA plus unearned runs was much higher. Why the disparity? They struck out a decent number of Yankees, 25K over the series, and allowed only 2 homers, both by Ruth, usually a recipe for a better FIP. But those walks and some cluster luck, the Yankees getting hit at just the right times, meant Pittsburgh couldn't keep runs off the board. That's a case where peripheral numbers, strikeouts, walks, home runs, say the Pirates' pitching wasn't as completely outclassed as it seemed. But when runners got on, the Yankees found a way to bring them in, or the Pirates' defense helped them along with errors. Defense and strategic factors. Defense isn't as easily quantified for 1927. No defensive runs saved in those days. But from the accounts, the Pirates made several costly mistakes. In modern terms, their defensive efficiency was lacking at critical moments. For example, in Game 1, second baseman George Graham booted a grounder that opened the door for a Yankees rally. Later that inning, catcher Earl Smith threw wildly trying to catch Gehrig off third in a pickoff play, allowing a run to score. Those errors don't show up in the box score as earned runs, but a stat like WPA assigns blame. And indeed, Earl Smith ended the series with a minus 6.8% championship WPA, meaning his plays significantly hurt the Pirates' chances. Meanwhile, the Yankees weren't flawless. Even more, the ace reliever dropped a toss at first base for an error in Game 4. But they didn't let mistakes compound into disasters. Modern stat heads talk about outs above average. Anecdotally, the Yankees made the outs when they needed. The Pirates didn't. Pittsburgh had 7 errors in 4 games to New York's 3. It's actually, I think, 6. I need to go back and look. But let's just take it as 7 or 6. A big differential in a short series. We might say the Pirates' defense had a negative impact of a run or two, which in a couple of run games is huge. Bullpen usage, ahead of its time. One of the most fascinating strategic elements is how Huggins and Pirates manager Donnie Bush used or didn't use their bullpens. Huggins, as noted, used Will C. Moore like a modern closer high-leverage reliever. He wasn't afraid to pull his ace Hoyt in Game 1 once Hoyt showed some signs of tiring and a blister. This is commonplace now. Think how Tampa Bay Rays quick hooks. But in 1927, it was somewhat bold. On the Pirates side, Bush turned to Johnny Milges as his main reliever. Milges actually did a fine job in Game 1, coming in after Kramer and stopping the bleeding. The Pirates almost came back, losing only 5-4, but poor Milges will forever be remembered for Game 4. The Pirates were clinging to a 3-2 lead in the 7th inning in Game 4, trying to avoid the sweep. Bush brought in Milges again as the game entered the late innings. Milges had electric stuff by 1927 standards, and he struck out Babe Ruth with the bases loaded in the 7th, a huge moment where it looked like he might be the hero this time. However, come the bottom of the 9th, the Yankees had tied the game 3-3 and loaded the bases again. With 2 outs, Tony Lazzeri at the plate. Milges uncorked a wild curveball that got away from catcher Johnny Gooch. Earl Combs dashed home from third with a series-winning run on a wild pitch. Yes, that's how the 1927 World Series ended, on a walk-off wild pitch. It remains the only World Series in history to end in that fashion. The analytics of that, well, if one probability added had been tracked, that wild pitch had a WPA of 100%. It instantly ended the game in the series. It was essentially a failure of execution and the highest leverage moment imaginable. Modern commentators would be all over that decision. Was Milges tiring? Should they have had a fresh arm in? Did Gooch set the target poorly? It's the kind of second guessing you see when a closer blows a save in Game 7 today. But give Huggins credit. The Yankees worked counts to create those bases loaded spots. And perhaps if this were 2023, the Pirates might have deployed a different reliever after Milges loaded the bases for a second time. Back then, you stuck with your guy. Pitching to contact versus missing bats. One sabermetric aspect worth noting. The Yankees pitchers only struck out 7 Pirates in the entire series. 7 in 4 games. That's a K9 of about 1.8. Even for the contact-happy 1920s. That's low. It shows the Yankees pitchers let their defense work and the Pirates put balls in play, but mostly for outs. In contrast, Pirates pitchers struck out 25 Yankees, a K9 over 6, which is high for the era. Usually you'd think the team that strikes out more batters and walks fewer, Pirates had 25 strikeouts and 13 walks, versus the Yankees, 7 strikeouts and 4 walks, would fare better. But here's the rub. Strikeouts are great, but timely hitting and preventing extra base hits matter more in a short series. The Yankees made their few strikeouts count, like Pennock bending a batter in a tight spot, etc. And crucially, they didn't give up any home runs to the Pirates. That kept their true outcome profile in a winning zone. Low walks, low homers allowed. Their team FIP, as mentioned, was around 3.1, better than the Pirates' FIP of approximately 3.6, largely because of the 0 homers and fewer walks allowed. This is a classic case of pitch to contact, but no free passes and no big flies working out. If a modern stat head saw those numbers, they'd say the Yankees staff avoided high leverage mistakes. The Pirates pitchers, despite the high strikeouts, made the costliest mistake you can to a lineup like New York's. They walked guys and gave up home runs. Not a surprise, really, when you're talking about pitching to Ruth. Defensive alignment and shifts. Let's indulge in a what-if. Defensive alignment. In 1927, of course, nobody was deploying shifts like we see today. Everyone played fairly straight up. If today's analytics departments were magically advising the Pirates, they might have shifted the infield toward right on Ruth and Gehrig, both lefty pull hitters, to steal some hits. Many of Ruth's singles were to right field. A modern team might put a second baseman in short right, the classic Ted Williams shift, and potentially turn a couple of those hits into outs. Likewise, Gehrig's 2 triples to right center might have been doubles if an outfielder had been positioned differently, or if we had modern relay throw efficiency. It's speculative but interesting. The point is, the concept of defensive runs saved was not in play. The Pirates weren't strategically optimizing their fielding alignment, and the Yankees' hits found holes. Conversely, the Yankees' defense, while conventional, executed fundamentals better. Aside from a couple of errors, they turned balls in play into outs at key times. They even pulled off a clutch double play or two, like Lazeri to Gehrig in Game 1. So in terms of defensive efficiency rating, DER, the percentage of balls in play converted to outs, the Yankees likely had the edge in that series. That's a stat we track now to gauge team defense, and it correlates with winning. Pittsburgh's DER was hurt by those errors and misplays. All in all, pitching and defense, the pitching and defense story of the 1927 series can be summed up like this. The Yankees had good pitching, backed by good defense and smart managing, whereas the Pirates had decent pitching on paper, but it was undermined by lapses in control when fielding. A modern analyst would note the Yankees' run prevention unit, pitching plus defense, was superior, not necessarily in strikeout ability, but in limiting damage. They say in today's game, keep the ball in the park, and you usually will be all right. The Yankees did exactly that. The Pirates, meanwhile, might look back and say, we beat ourselves with those mistakes. And as any sabermetrician would point out, October baseball often comes down to a few high-leverage moments. The Yankees simply perform better in those moments, whether by skill or the Pirates' miscues.